Sitecore MVP and been active in the Sitecore community for more than a decade now. I like to share my blogs that I write on sitecodediaries.org. Don't worry, I have my LinkedIn and X contact details on the last slide when we cover this. So, in case if you want to discuss anything related to Sitecore ecosystem, please feel free to send me a connect on LinkedIn, and I'll get back to you with any questions that I'll be able to answer in any capacity that I can. Okay, so coming back to today's topic, it's about reducing carbon footprints in Sitecore site using XM Cloud. Uh, Now, this whole webinar does not have any demo, but I'm pretty sure that it will be an interactive one and you guys will be able to relate this. Everyone does this in their site, but nobody sees in that angle, right? So when I see when the topics will start coming in, you will understand what guys are already doing in your projects, what you are not doing, and what you can do, right? So technically, first, let's try to understand why this topic, all right? So when something comes up as carbon footprints or global warming, anything that kind of this comes up, a first picture that will come to your mind will be in a big industry throwing out some smoke or something, right? Or like discharging their waste in a water. So basically, we always picture it and always keep painting a picture in our mind that anything that is related to carbon or this is related to industries. But to be honest, as we are growing and the awareness is around us, anything that emits like burns the fuel, right, renewable energy that emits the CO2. And most of the data centers right now, which are operational, are maximum are on renewable energy, right? So you can see the stats that internet itself is causing 4% of the global CO2 emission. That's a huge number. Looks like a small percentage, but it's a number, and it is predicted to go higher and higher as we are going towards the AI models, AI world, artificial intelligence. To do that kind of computing and processes and everything, you will need more data centers and more capability through that, right? So, like people or the leaders are taking an step towards like solar energy and everything, non-renewable, this thing, right? But here we need to understand what we can do as a part, as a digital professional, as a developers, as a solution architect. What are our duties and responsibilities that we can take, we can make our clients aware of, and what things we can do, right? Now, from if things have been cleared, like what this topic is about, I'll come to the website, right? So generally, we or maybe the Sitecore world, we design website, right? Anything else might be just an integration or SaaS product for us. So when we create a website, we have three things, okay, that contribute. There are a lot of factors that contribute to carbon, but the main three things that I've just categorized it into, one is hosting, because you might be on on-premise server or you might be on platform as a service in Azure or AWS. You might be in a hybrid model. So if you're in XM Cloud, you have already done more than 70% of your part. But if you're not on XM Cloud or and not in a SaaS solution, then you are almost in the moderate or high emission category, right? And the other part of the story that I was saying you guys might be already doing, and this is correlating, is like if you work towards a sustainable design, it improves speed and cost, right? So every client that we work with, we are always asked like, can we fine tune the SEO? Can we increase the performance of the site? Can we reduce the cost of hosting? So when you take measures to that, right, when you are improving the SEO, when you are improving the performance, you are making your carbon emission lesser. And even if you're working towards reducing the cost in hosting, you're again reducing the carbon. So some of the topics you might be already unknowingly doing, but there are some things that you might not know and that we can think of and you can try to fix it in the site. Okay. Any questions here about the topic? Is any of the topic not clear? And if you're not on same page, I'm happy to answer any question that might come. So I'll take the silence as no. and move to the next slide. So just setting up the agenda for this webinar. So first we will try to understand digital carbon footprint, then the site core architecture, not a architecture as such. There are platforms like how you are hosting or which product of site core you are using, how it impacts the carbon emission, then optimization strategies, what things you can do. And whenever you do, right, for any client, if you go and say like, I want to do this, there should be a measurable and a reporting that needs to happen so that even the client can understand the ROI, return on their investment in this direction. A small case study with the numbers that we have done for one of our clients and what we do, and then a Q&A. Like if there are any questions, we can wait. If you have a question, we can wait till the end of the session. But if it comes up in between and you think it is a better time, feel free to ask me, stop me and ask any question that you might have. Okay, so understanding this digital carbon footprint, right? So now, as I said, the main three categories that contribute to the carbon are these three categories. One is your hosting, which I have named as servers for now. Then second is network, so is the data transfer, right? And the third one is your user devices, right? So let's start first, the hosting. So any website you develop, either it will be hosted on-prem, like most of the government sites, the financial services site, or something where they think that data or confidentiality is a main constraint for them, or like that's a major non-negotiable thing. They almost go for on-premise, right? They don't like to share their servers with other thing, or they don't like to be on a cloud where the services are shared, right? So when you're on servers, computation and the storage will burn more energy because you're using the server which is built for more better thing, but you're just hosting a website, and that server is running 24 by 7 to keep your site live for 365 days, right? So that is one area. Second is network, right? So when we say network, it's between your server and client. Client can be anywhere, right? Client is your browser. Now somebody accessing your site from India, somebody accessing your site from Australia. So let's take an example. The site is hosted in US and a person from US is browsing it. So the data transfer is less, right? Because the hit came from US, it went to the server and came back to the client. Now, if a person is based out of Australia who is trying to browse your site, now the data transfer is so long from Australia to United States that it is again emitting the carbon emissions there. Like it's a longer thing that you can take. And then user devices. Now that's this is something pretty much every one of us are doing, right? So what we generally do is we try to handle everything through CSS media queries, right? Even when you know that it's like you if you do some mobile first approach and then go to desktop, rather than we are doing handling everything through CSS, right? Sitecore provides us a way to design different rendering for different devices, right? So you can have a different rendering for desktop, tablet, and mobile. But instead of that, we have single rendering, single thing. It is the same computation. Then the div structure, like if let's take a simple example is your navigation, right? We always have two navigation structures, one visible in desktop and one visible in mobile. But we at a time in a DOM, both are loaded, and based on the CSS, one or other will be shown, right? Now, even this kind of approaches are emitting your carbon or leading to the increase in the page load time. It might be anything like as the DOM increases in your um size, it will always take more time. That's the simple calculation that you can do. And if you just a fact check that I have added here is if you see the number, the average web page. Now this is a normal web page. It takes zero point 0.5 to 2 gram of carbon dioxide per view. Now this is on the lower side that I have taken from this research. There are cases where it says 3 to 4 gram as well, right? So now 0 to 2 means in the range of 3 to 6 seconds or 7 seconds load time. So if the pages in your website are loading more than that, then we are emitting a huge, and there is a lot of area of improvement that we can go in. Okay. Now, this one is just a calculation that I've created. Like this is how the carbon emissions are calculated, data transferred into energy intensity into emission factor, right? So out of which the understanding that you can take is one is reduce data transfer and use greener hosting. Don't worry about it. These are just a built up and you will understand the concept, each and every concept, how you can reduce the data transfer, how you can go to the greener hosting. Everything is covered in the next topic. Okay. But what I meant is like carbon emission is directly dependent on these two. So if you fix either of this or both of this, you are almost in a good or sweet spot in the carbon emission process. Okay. Any questions still here? No, right?
All
So
good.
I'll take, yeah, perfect. Okay. Now, just before jumping into the exact areas, I would like to brief about the products, right? So if you're on XP, right, and you're on on-prem, let's say your client is using a Sitecore license on-premise and is a government client, or like they are rigid about moving from on-premise or like the servers to anything, it's the highest impact, right? As I gave an example, right? Your site needs a little of energy to run, but you have blocked the whole servers, like one server for one, like in production. Basically what we do on premise is if you have three environments, right? DIT, QA or UAT or maybe production, we have one for DIT standalone, then a scaled for CM CD for QA, and in production we have CM and maybe two CDs with load balance, right? Now, if you take this calculation, one server in DIT, two servers in, so I'm not even counting the services. So if you are in Sitecore 9 and above, you have when you are going into a scaled environment, every service has a different servers, like the processing, marketing, solar. But I'm assuming most, like for this simple calculation, I'm assuming those are hosted on the CM server for now. So you have one for DIT, two for QA, and like three for your production. So you're running five servers technically to keep your ecosystem up and running, right? If you're having dedicated servers for dedicated services, then it goes about 10. So that is the highest impact that your carbon emissions are happening. Okay. So even, let's say, even if you take an effort to make the website very good, smooth, like everything loads in 2 seconds or within 3 seconds, still the carbon emissions will be still remain high because you cannot do or change anything about your hosting, right? So that is one piece that we need to understand. Second is the latest, most people are in between XM Cloud and this setup, right? Maybe it's a XM XP, but it is platform as a service. When I said on-prem, it's not necessarily a server, but it can be infrastructure as a service as well. So you are still in Azure, but you are taking a VM instead of web services. Okay, that is also kind of on-prem setup itself. Now, when you are an Azure, right, platform as a service, 50% of your headache is taken by Azure. They have their services, shared services, the server thing has gone now. But still, it's under moderate because they might help you to get that app service now, but to scale it, auto scale it, then use the app service plan based on your requirement is something still you have to do, right? Nobody is handling that for you. So you need your infrastructure team to do the study and fine tune it. So that's where it's under moderate. And XM Cloud is very low. Now, very low is because, see, if no, if you guys don't know XM Cloud, I'll cover it in the next slide. But it's a product, it's a software as a service product, right? So you will just have it's something similar to like how you have Amazon. You will log in, you will go to the portal, you will buy the product and you are done, right? Same time XM Cloud, you'll go in, you build something. It's not set up on any of your server. You just get a link where you log in and you do your things. And when you want to integrate with your front end site, right, which might be in React, Next.js, you're using the APIs, GraphQL queries. That's all you're doing. So when it's very low is because now when you're using XM Cloud, the theory is you're using front-end technologies, which is a lighter version for HTML as well. When you're using React, Next.js, you're using a cached components properly, which is the features of Next.js, right? So, and then on top of that, since the Next.js is a Vercel product, you'll be using Vercel, which again has kind of a it is built-in, they have a built-in CDN which keeps your site faster, right? Uh, so that's about it. So you don't have to take care on the back end as well as front end. Is the only thing in this setup that you will need is you will need a very good architect to understand. So if you write a bad code, nobody can do anything about it, right? For example, I'll give you a GraphQL example, right? Now, if you're designing, let's say, a news article in Next.js, okay, if it's a detail page, you need six, right? But if it's a listing, maybe you just need two or three fields. But even on listing, if you are writing a GraphQL query which is giving you all the fields and then you are loading that item and then just choosing one or two, three, it's still a bad code, right? It is getting some data in your thing which is not required, right? Now that's where you need good architects to understand what will be the performance impact, how you can do or utilize it. I do agree that sometimes the deadlines are so high that we miss out on these small things, but whenever you move into sustaining phase, I think this should be noted as tech debts and you should fix it for a greener outcome, that if we are thinking to get the greener outcome. So the whole with the platforms and the services that we have with Sitecore, it's easily you can make a easy assumption as if you go to composable and serverless approach, it is more greener. It will reduce your carbon emission to almost the low, right? Any questions still here before I start what is XM Cloud? Okay. I'll again take no as silence as no. Thanks, Arjun. Um, So here, XM Cloud, right? So for people who have not used XM Cloud at, it is same as what you do in XM XP. Okay. For a basic understanding, you can just understand that XM Cloud is kind of a CMS piece, which is now put in a cloud and you are getting it as a software as service. This is a layman's term, okay? But it is way powerful than that, right? So XM Cloud is a headless cloud native API first content. Now, it why I said it's very powerful is because once you start thinking about the XM Cloud implementation, everything changes. Now in XP or XM as well, you can still do .NET coding and have your uh, SXA and everything in place, right? But as soon as you say XMC, XM Cloud, the latest trend is to use Next.js, right? Because then you can easily host it on Vercel. Your websites are so fast, right? And that's where the headless is. The Vercel piece of it does not, even if your XMC is unavailable, still whatever is cached, a cached copy of the site can be rendered to your clients. That's so powerful, right? And when through the Edge APIs, obviously, and when you have that kind of everybody who has a Sitecore experience knows is Sitecore is a very heavy tool. If you go into the monolithic one, it's a heavy tool. Now it is slowly being disengaged or broken down into different products of Sitecore. For example, in XM Cloud, you get a flavor of personalization. But if you want to do a core personalization, you will go to Sitecore Personalize. Then you will go, if you want to use good search, then you will go to Sitecore Search or any other, maybe Covio or maybe Elasticsearch, anything. But then these kind of things are like connected to XM Cloud through APIs, right? That's all XM Cloud is. So you can, that's why it is known as a serverless one or a headless one, which is like it's not like with every other feature it's packed with it like how we have in XP. It is not like that. It is like just segregated. And if you just want to use CM and if your website does not need any third party integration, it's just your XM cloud and the front end technology and you are good to go. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Now, within Sitecore, right? So now we discuss about what are the products of Sitecore that has high impact, moderate impact, low impact. Then we also discuss how we can, what are the areas like reducing your data transfer, greener hosting. Fine. Now let's come to the exact areas in Sitecore that has a impacts in the areas, right? That impacts your carbon emission. First is media, second is rendering, third is code, and fourth is infra. Okay. Every area I have touched in a flavor, right? Till now, whatever we have covered in media also, it's like if your media sizes are very high, your page load will take a lot of time. It will take maybe 7, 8 seconds, right? So instead of that, you will try to optimize. Like even if you're doing it for SEO, right? When we start SEO, first focus is always on the page load time. So you see which images are taking a lot of time, then you go optimize it, upload it again, and then you fix it, right? That's how you do it. That's media. Rendering is something that we spoke about, but we will discuss it in more way. The highest flavor, like there can be another flavor to it when we are saying rendering. Every time you add a rendering, right, inside core, there are caching properties that you can do. Like for example, your header and footer should be always cached, right? Because it's the most used component of your website when people are traveling from one page to another page, right? Header and footer is the only thing that remains constant 90% of the time. Plus, if you have some other components, like let's say a banner that is like floating at the bottom, which is almost present on all the pages, or there are components that are very static, does not change regularly, you should start using caching on it. Sitecore gives you the caching feature. You can always mark it as like clear the cache on publish, right? There is like vary when data change or something is there, vary by data or vary by publish, that you can do. So that every time you do a content update and publish, it will automatically clear the cache and it will just render the new content. Then the code if efficiencies, right? So I spoke about optimizing the queries as well. So we need to focus like um, I can give more example. There is a slide in front. When we reach to that slide, I'll tell you exactly in the .NET as well, like how it easily impacts us. And then infra, I spoke about auto scale. We'll again speak another different areas which we can think and try to jot it down and see, talk to our clients and see if we can change it. Okay. So the first area, media optimization, what you can do, right? First thing, first thing that you can do is you can use the lighter versions of your images, right? So most of the content authors have a habit of uploading a PNG or JPEG, right? Either ask them to use WebP or AVIF, which are latest, or you write a pipeline in a code which converts those files, those images to WebP format or AVIF format. Two options you have. This you can do. The second thing is lazy loading. If your pages are heavy imagery pages, then try to implement lazy loading so that the images will only load when you are in that viewport. Else, like so, let's say take an example. If you are on news listing and you load 10 news articles on that page, and user comes to that page and clicks on the first news itself, so then the rest of the images, for example, maybe viewport might be where you are able to see first and second news. Then the rest of the 8 images which are there for the other things, that should only load when the user is scrolling down to find any news, right? As you can just load the first one, user has clicked on the first one and that's done. Like you don't need to load all 10 images. The third thing or the third part that is very important is CDN. Now, again, this is not under your control as a developer or an architect. It's all that you can do is you can suggest, right? To use a content delivery networks like Cloudflare, Akamai. There are many more. Right. So that you can use. So now what CDN will do is it will do the caching by default, right? Content delivery networks. And what happens, what I was talking about the data transfer from Australia to US, what it does is, for example, if you're using Cloudflare, right, it has 200 points in each, like 200 points, or like now it might be more. I had done that research like quite a while ago, but they can have more point of source what they cache your website copy to. So what will happen is there will be a Cloudflare point, let's say in Australia. So the person browsing your site will get a cached copy of your site to that person through Australia itself. So your data transfer from Australia to US is saved, right? So CDN and caching will save your data transfer drastically. And then this is kind of a debate. The fourth point, people nowadays feel that there should be more animations, more autoplay, muted autoplay videos, or even the actual videos, right? They like to keep it autoplay so that it makes the user to go on that particular video or something. That is a strategy out of it. But if you can avoid, if it's not adding value, you can always have some Google Tag Manager events added to this kind of assets. Try to analyze for a year or so, because Google Analytics and this takes time, right? Even the traffic floating to your site, how they react, what is the behavior, takes time. But if it is not adding much value to your traffic or your users at the end of the day, it will be better you get rid of that from your site, because it is also a plays a major role in carbon emission. Okay. Now, Sitecore caching and code efficiencies. So one was that I already spoke about. Every Sitecore rendering, whether it's a view rendering, controller rendering, XHML rendering that we add in the presentation layer, always has the caching properties or caching sections that we can use. And also when you create a rendering under the layout node, there also you can define. If you don't want to define it at page level, you can define it at the rendering level as well. So that is one thing. Second thing, now coming under code efficiencies, right? Now you might have heard about MCP servers already. So now what we do is, like, if your website is very heavy with third-party integrations, then what we generally do is, and if we are implementing uh, Helix rules, for example, then under foundation, you will have couple of these modules added, right? Maybe Salesforce, then it can be Google Analytics, it can be another three, four tools that we use. And then you're writing the REST API for them again and again. One one connector for Salesforce, one connector for your Google Analytics, one connector for maybe social media. And you keep writing, you'll receive. So your sockets are opening, closing. Instead of that, if you can implement an MCP server for your site or your client, it is like you have a website, you can connect to the any third party tool through MCP server. Now what you have done is you have moved your service layer itself to MCP server instead of it being in a business of your website, right? So now you have cleanly segregated the application layer and service layer. So again, the efficiency of the code will be higher. The third point is optimize controller and view renderings. Now, this is about, I'm not sure if you had seen the old ways of working in MVC. Like we used to write a quick code in Vue as well, right? So let's say like if you want to just write a news article listing page, then we used to have that for each in the view itself, and then trying to render one by one field, right? When you had an option to do a view model, right? So even if you're doing that now, you should stop, and view should be the lightest version of what it can be in the code, right? It should not have any business logic, nothing. Like it should be a plain HTML. So once it gets the model, it should be able to just like model dot property. That's it, right? And your controllers should always be implemented in dependency injection, because that helps to keep the code cleaner. And with that, it's um, obviously like when you are going and using those kind of the standards in your site code, the code is clean and that saves the performance as well. Okay. Now I'll give you another example of code efficiency. Okay, if you like people who have worked in a lot for Sitecore ecosystem might get what I'm giving an example. If you are very new to Sitecore, so I'm sorry, you'll not understand what I'm trying to say. But generally, when you're trying to get children and children's of children, right? So let's say like you have a news item, and then you might have the sub item as news article, but the news article can be more than 100. So what you do is you implement a concept called bucketing. Now that added structure will be like month, date, year that will come up in between. Now, since I have that and I want to show like top three news on homepage, I have three, four approaches. First can be you write a for each for the children, and then again a for each and a inside for each, right? And that will give you, finally, it will filter out based on the template, it will filter out and give you top three. The second way of doing it is like using the get descendant method, and then again filtering out the top three based on the template. You'll again get three. And third thing can be using the fast query, right? You give the fast query template, again you get three. And the fourth thing can be a search predicate. You pass on the search predicate and then get the news article. Now, in all these four approaches, you will get the desired result. In none of the approaches, anything will fail, right? Now it's the architect's responsibility based on the use case to select the approach, right? So if you're doing the first two, you're killing your system, you're killing your homepage, because it's for each and for each. If you are having 100 plus news, it's going on, it's running, and then it's pulling, and you can't cache it because content authors might be publishing the news every other day, right? So you can't cache that component, so you're gone. So that's killing. The get descendant is also a performance intense, performance heavy operation that we are doing. Fast query is fine, but the best way will be the search predicate to get this kind of data, right? So these are the small things. At the end of the day, as a developer, we are trying to get the output, but what we are implementing, we should also know the outcomes and the impact that we are creating on the performance. Okay. Then the other thing is like minifying and bundle assets. So this we are doing most of the time. There is nothing that we need the improvements. It's like the CSS and JS we try to minify, we try to bundle it and minify and upload it as a one file. That's we do. We try to compress it as well. But still, if we are writing some scripts in Sitecore directly, or if you're writing inline styles through rich text editor, that should stop, because that will slowly have an impact on your site as well. Okay. And again, CDN and age caching is similar to like if you're using Next.js and you want to do age caching for the components, that is something should be implemented. Okay. So the last area is infrastructure, right? So we spoke about the servers, we spoke about the web services, we spoke about SaaS, right? So now what actually is there in our hand? Okay. So even if you're on-prem or maybe in platform as a service, you can use CI/CD pipeline to deploy, right? Auto scaling, you can keep it auto scaling, have a slot swap so that you don't have to manually do one thing. Second thing is everybody has non-products, right? Non-production. I'm not talking about production environment, but if you have lower environments, let's say like how I said DIT, QA, or maybe UAT, if your team might be working in max 8 to 10 hours of range, right? And then nobody might be working on those lower environments. try to put it in off hours, because since you're uh, if it's on-prem, it's hard. I can understand. You might not have access to that particular server or somewhere to start it. But if you're in cloud already, right? If you're using Azure, maybe a VM or maybe even the web service, it's just a click of a button where you can start the service if you need it. What I mean by that is, like, if some production bugs comes in, okay, and you want to try your fix on lower environment in the off hours, it's just a click away, right? You click it and that it will spin up your environment. Then use tools like Azure Advisor for ideal resources. Now I have been working in Azure for a lot, like more than a decade now. Didn't get much chance to work on other clouds, so I've written about Azure, but I'm pretty sure the other like Google Cloud, AWS might be giving you this kind of reports already, right? Where you can see like which resources are ideal, and you can turn them down on which particular time ranges. Okay, and try to use containerization and Kubernetes not only on local. I know like there are a couple of projects which uses Docker for local development, and then they use normal normal infrastructure for hosting in the higher environments, right? But even if you use Kubernetes in your non-prod environments or production environment, it has its own benefit of keeping the performances high. There is a complexity of maintaining it, but if performance is a key, then you can always have a learning curve and fix it. Yeah. Yep. So any question still here? Now it's almost like how you can measure and everything. So till now, what we were discussing is what creates the carbon emission, right? And how you can fix it. Do we have uh, anything till here, or I'll go to the measurement? So now for measurement, I'll take the silence again as a no. Okay. So, for the measurements, there are a couple of things. First is like you can do some manual page loads, right? How you can do a lighthouse score. Try to see the lighthouse score benchmarking before you do some changes. After you do some changes, you will see the benefit. The page load the performance might have increased. But if you need some certified tools that can validate your carbon emissions, then these are the three sites that I usually work with: website carbon.com, ecograder.com, and Green Web Foundation. Can you see my other tab in the browser? Is my other tab visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So for just to give you an example, how the website Carbon looks is like I've just tried to give the facebook.com to see how much of a carbon emission it does. So if you see this globe, right? So this is us, all the sites in the globe. This is our average, right? And like whenever you will work towards it, it does not mean you will become A plus or something, right? The goal is not to be directly A plus. It's like moving towards the A plus. Okay. So average global average is here between E and F, right? And even Facebook is at C. So you can see, and that is like even the home page. Maybe if I hit the some internal pages, it might again move towards D. So it does not scan the whole website as such, but it does web page wise. Okay, and then it has more information as well, like because of the hosting, what is happening, how much is equivalent to what, some fact checks that you get, right? Like if you say what you can do, kind of thing. Okay, and the other two are also so on website carbon.com, you don't need to create your account or something. You can, it's just a search text and you can hit the URL and you can get the results. But other two, you might need to create your account and then sign up and then do the tracking. Okay, but there is a manual way of doing the calculations as well. You can do some, take the world average benchmarks and then uh, make it marry to your page load time. Okay, that is also an easy way to do it. Okay, so the case study. So in this case study, what we did is we had a client whose page size was around more than 3 MB actually, so 3 point something, and that pages there were page types actually. There were couple of pages similar to that, and then it was taking in the range of six, right, 5 to 7 seconds every time. So if you load it for the first time, it used to take 7 seconds. If you had already browsed it, it used to take somewhere around 6 to 5 seconds, right? And the global average, if you take in this range, it is around 2.1 grams. Okay, the carbon emission per view. Okay. Now, when we did the changes like similar to what we like using CDN, optimizing the images, fixing some JSs, compressing it, removing some references not required, the load time came to 2 seconds, right? The carbon emission went to zero point 0.5 gram. And all this, if you see, is per view. Okay, it is not like per page browse for 10 times or something. It's per view. So even if that page on an average gets, let's say, 10K visits in a year, you can just see like how much of an impact we have done, right? 10K into 1.6. So it will be 160K kilogram of carbon saved in a year, right? Which is like a 70% reduction achieved. Okay, so this is a case study and it creates an impact. Now, technically, if you see these numbers correctly, the SEO has also increased, the performance has also increased. So it has a benefit. It's not necessary that you need to do all these things only for carbon emission. You need, anyways, you need a good performance for your SEO. Okay. So at TechZot, what we have started doing is we have created a sustainability approach, right? And that under that approach itself, these webinars are also coming from. So we generally do three things when we start under this approach. First is embed a eco design in Sitecore builds. So when we say eco design is we try to ask client not to use too many animations, auto playing videos, all those stuff. There is kind of a guidelines. Then align with client ESG goals, right? Environmental and social goals. So there are few manufacturing clients that we work with, and they have already have their ESG goals. So that these kind of activities of proactiveness are helping them as well. But even if your client is not in that industry but might like to do this, it's something that you will need to check because even as an architect, developer, or any Sitecore professional, right? If your client is not paying for these services, you can't do it for free for them. So you will need to talk to them. You will need to align to that ESG goals. And we as TechZot are promoting this awareness to the SUG event. So I had presented it in SUG Pune before, now in Kolkata. And there will be couple of improvements coming in. I'll be presenting the same topic with additional information next year as well. So we are kind of promoting this approach of carbon footprints. Okay, so what are the key takeaways for you from this webinar is every byte saved is one carbon emission saved, sustainability boost performance and SEO. So as we said, like if you work towards reducing your carbon emission, you automatically boost your performance of the website. The SEO will also get better. And if you are going to Sitecore Composable Cloud, then supports this goal as well. What I meant by this is like if your client or if your company is already thinking to move towards XM Cloud, then this is another reason to move to XM Cloud. Okay. And that's how we come to the end of this webinar. So again, thank you. These are my contact details. You can write me an email to rohan.kenkre@techzot.com, or you can, if you scan this QR code, then you will directly get to my LinkedIn profile or X profile, and we can connect and discuss that you might have, questions that you might have, or anything not related to this webinar. Even I'm happy to connect and answer any of the questions that you might have related to Sitecore ecosystem.
Thank you, Ron. It's a great topic. I mean, anyone has any question? Ron, I believe you also write down a blog on this, right?
Yeah.
Basically, some of the key things. Need to know, I mean, it is related to the performance improvement, which will actually directly help this CO2 emission.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Anyone has any question? We'll wait for few seconds. Okay, fine. It seems no one has any question. But anyway, if you have any question, you can directly communicate with Rohan, or you can go through the SUG Kolkata group also. We have Rohan with us in SUG Kolkata group. Thank you, Rohan, for your insightful webinar. It is a great takeaway for us. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us in a Friday evening.
Yeah. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining this webinar, and thank you, SCG Kolkata, again for having me today.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.